Hey everybody, welcome to the Making of an Exception podcast. My name is Kirk Graham. Today we have the founder of the Golden Rule, which is a lifestyle shop and gallery. Decidedly
not a boutique.
Not a boutique. Don't call it a boutique.
No.
But it's a lifestyle shop and gallery in Excelsior, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And her name is Erin Duininck. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. We started this podcast a while ago, and we've always kind of thrown out, like, if you know anybody who's doing just amazing things with their life, like any level of success or influence, but also has just a crazy faith journey and life journey, just throw their names out. And so many people, friends of ours, have thrown out your name, and so I can't believe you're actually here. This is the really first time we're meeting.
Yep.
So we had a little bit of a pre-conversation before.
We've logged like 20 solid minutes of ENFP time. So.
Yeah, but I think, we found out we're ENFPs, which is amazing. So we understand each other. Mm-hmm. We're both extroverts. I'm going to do my best to not talk 50% of the time.
We'll just interrupt each other back and forth.
Okay, we'll do that, which is totally fine. But yeah, tell us about what Golden Rule is, when it started, and kind of more of what does it even mean, lifestyle shop and gallery. I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, so that's a hard question for me to answer in a succinct manner. It feels really steeped in my history. Are you okay with me kind of going backwards in time a little bit?
You're saying it's been around forever in your heart, and now it's here?
In a very roundabout way, I suppose. Yeah. I recently have just been doing so much reflecting on where I come from, who I come from, the people that have gone before me, and I feel like Golden Rule is sort of the culmination and the fruition of this mantle that I carry from all of these people before me. My parents, my dad grew up as a secular humanist, and my mom grew up as a Methodist.
Yep.
And they both had these really amazing encounters, spiritual encounters when they were young adults, and so they became Christians a little later on.
Explain what a secular humanist is.
I don't totally know. It's something I've never really understood, but it's
maybe not, where was your dad when,
maybe not
when
believing,
he would call him that?
Not going to church, not necessarily believing in God, believing more in like the inherent goodness of mankind.
Got it. Yeah. Your mom was Methodist.
Yeah, and grew up in the Christian tradition, but maybe didn't have that personal relationship, and so in the 70s they both had these encounters, and so they were very on fire when they had me.
Like good spiritual encounters, not like they were on PCP encounters.
No, like life-changing, felt like they met Jesus.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So that's this one main thing. And then the other thing is that they both lost people close to them around the same time. My mom's sister, her only sibling, died of cancer, and my dad's dad died in his arms of a heart attack. Wow. And so then they met and they got married, and they had me soon after, 2 years later. So my young life was very marked by, one, their faith, and two, their losses, even though they didn't really bring them to the table as such. I think I believe strongly in absence as presence. And because I didn't get to know my aunt or my grandfather, I just knew these very distilled versions of them. Yeah. And so my aunt, in her young life, was a published poet, before she died of cancer. Yep. And my grandfather ran Kaufman Union, so he was a community builder, and his motto in life was, "To thine own self be true." And so when you don't know someone and you have no...
To thine own self be true.
Yes. And when you don't know someone and you have no experience with them, it's very easy to distill their life down to just these tiny truths that you have.
Yeah. Absence is presence.
Yeah. Yep. So for whatever reason, being an oldest child or just being the child of two very earnest ENFPs.
You are an only child.
Oldest of three.
Oh, oldest of three.
Did I say only? I mean oldest.
No, you might have said oldest. I heard only. Okay.
I misspeak all the time.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I took on this mantle of all of these people who came before me, and I took on the mantle of To Thine Own Self Be True, community building, the poetry. Yep. My grandmother was a writer and an activator, and my other grandmother was an activist, and then my parents chose to live out their lives in their calling. So they were musicians, and they sang for children. And so they lived their life together, art as a vocation, and it was their mission to the world. And so I had this very earnest example, and I just assumed that I would also be a singer, and that's what I went to school for, and it never occurred to me that I couldn't do art as vocation. And so I never set out to have golden rule. I set out to be a singer-songwriter and to sing with joy and to kind of proclaim. And then just all the different twists and turns that my life has taken. I mean, I can tell you more about that, but now I find myself as a shopkeep.
No, we will talk about the twists and turns, but somehow it ended up in art as vocation. It's still true that this is a form of art for you in keeping this shop. And so practically, if you walk into the golden rule today, what are people going to find? So
it is my heart, mind, and soul in a room. I mean, that's the best way to explain it.
Can you talk more epically? Like, that's so epic. That's amazing. No, it's really, that's awesome. And even just phrases like art is vocation, or to thine own self be true. Like, we're 5 minutes into this and I've learned 14 things. So I appreciate it. Okay. So your mind, heart, and soul.
Yeah. So I had been, we'll take it back to 1994 when I was
This is the best. I love
14 years old. And I was making jewelry like every young girl makes jewelry, kind of obsessively and prolifically. And my parents were like, okay, well, if you're going to do this, let's do this the right way.
Yep.
So they got me an apprenticeship with a silversmith.
Really?
So, and only,
Man, your parents
artist parents
cool.
would do something like that,
Yeah.
So I sort of had these skills in my back pocket and this hobby, I guess I would call it. I still thought I'd be a singer-songwriter, and that's what I ended up doing for a long time. And I did jewelry on the side for weddings and whatever. And I ended up getting married really quite young, having a daughter, and getting divorced quite quickly.
Yeah.
And
how young were you?
Well, I guess it's all relative. I was 23 when we got married and 25 when we got divorced. So just kind of
quick
went through everything. And I found myself just in a place I never imagined I would be. I mean, my parents were now pastors. I grew up with the best family as kind of an annoying goody-goody.
Yep.
Everything was easy for me, went right for me. So it was not what I imagined.
To everything going wrong.
Yes, just wrong. So I started writing and singing with, have you ever heard of Caitlin Smith?
I don't, and maybe she's listening, and I'm offending
Hi,
her.
Caitlin. No, she's, I mean, she's written for Garth Brooks, and she wrote that
it.
song, I'm Gonna Love You Like I'm Gonna Lose You, that was on the
Friends
radio.
in Low Places, isn't it?
Yeah. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
No, but she's famous in her own right now. She was just in People magazine. She's just blown up.
No way.
So she and I were living together and writing together.
You know this person.
Oh, yeah, we were songwriting partners.
Amazing. No
so
way.
we were singing together.
You didn't get a co-write on Garth's album? Man.
It pays for my car. It's fine.
It's amazing.
No, so she and I were writing and singing out at every bar, every weekend, all over the place. And it was pretty raw. We were the Kates, Erin, Kate, and Caitlin. And it was Heartbreak with Hope. And our songs were a little bit heartbreaking. We were both dealing with stuff. And the more we healed, the slightly happier our songs got. But that was kind of really going somewhere. And then I met the love of my life, and I didn't really have sad things to say anymore.
Because things started going right.
Yeah, and the same thing happened for her. We each got married. She moved to Nashville and became a staff songwriter. And I moved to Excelsior, and Ben was kind of like, you know what, this late night gig lifestyle just isn't working for family life. And I agreed, and so I started, that's when the jewelry kind of came back into play.
Yeah.
And I opened up a little gallery on our property called Orchard Art House. We had a house, or still have a house, on an old orchard.
Yep.
And I had been given so much by the arts and music community in Minneapolis during my divorce that I wanted a way to give back.
Yeah.
So I brought in all of these artists that I wanted the West Side to know, and then sold their work and didn't take a commission because I knew I was kind of learning, but I also wanted to do this favor.
Yep.
And during that time, you know, I've now married the love of my life, and of course we want to grow our family, and so we started trying to have children, and just after a succession of losses, we
talk about that. And you mentioned it right before we started, but and you've already said things went wrong with your first marriage. Then you met the love of your life. Things are starting to go well, but it leads into, again, things going wrong.
Yeah.
My wife and I miscarried a child, and unless you experience that and you go through that, you don't really know the level of loss. And even as a husband, you experience it different, as
Slightly
the father than,
more detached, maybe because it's not happening 100%. In your body.
100%.
Not a lesser degree, but just a different.
Yeah. You're right. It's not lesser, but at the same time, when it's your body and it's happening inside of you, I mean, it's just different.
It adds insult to injury to be going through surgeries and giving yourself shots and things like that.
Walking through that with my wife opened my eyes. Like, my goodness, we've had friends that have lost children, and we did not give the level of care that we probably should have, So we were actually apologizing to people because we said we had no idea.
Well, and you don't know what you don't know.
Totally. So talk about, some of those losses. What happened as you're trying to have a baby?
Yeah, I mean, I think suffering in general can carve out a space in you, and I think we all suffer. That's an inevitable part of life, but we have choice in what we do with those broken places. Like if we become sharp, or if there's some way that we can stay soft. And I've chosen both. Yeah. And I think that you can be carved out so deeply that can also become a well for like your joy. You can feel joy in a deeper way too.
Man, I've never heard it like that, and I think it's right, and it's proof of who you are now, and kind of what comes out of you, the depth that's inside of you, even in the last 30 minutes of meeting you. But it's just brilliant. The pain in our life is actually carving out, and you can either choose to say this has made me hollow and I'm empty, or as something that is empty has the potential to now be filled. And if you weren't carved out, you wouldn't be able to be filled with that level of capacity.
Yeah.
Man, if we ended the podcast right now, if we just ended right now, that's brilliant.
So mic drop.
Yeah.
I'm
Great
all
job.
done.
No,
Who cares about golden rule?
Talk about being carved out. What does that mean?
I mean, I think you spoke to it saying the word hollow. Mm-hmm. I think that it can feel very, very hollow, and I wanted so deeply to be a mother and to have a child with this wonderful man and to give my daughter a sibling, and we suffered so much loss. And you know, like I said, you have choice, and so I kept thinking, okay, what's my choice here? I can't control this. What can I control? And so I kept trying to pour my love and care into the gallery, and I would sort of year by year grow it in different ways. I moved onto George Street in Excelsior, which isn't the main street, so it was kind of like this little step up. And, by the time we had lost 7 babies, I had totally given up and was just over it. And then I got pregnant again miraculously, naturally, and then thought I miscarried again. And 7 weeks later, when I thought I had miscarried, but I hadn't. I had had an ectopic, so 7 weeks later was suffering with a lot of pain and ended up in the ER and had a brush with death. And so it was this 12-week ectopic pregnancy that, it was a good thing we caught it, because that could have been the end. And in that moment, I was just like, that was my angriest, most hollow point, like, why have I had to suffer through so many things? And I don't even believe in asking that question. I feel like, why do I get to live in Minnesota? Why am I not in a war-torn country? Why am I healthy? Don't ask. Don't ask why. Yeah. Like, that's just silly. But I felt like I had hit my breaking point, and it took a few months, and finally was just like, you know what? What's my problem? I am so blessed. I have Ben and I have Lillian. Why do I think I deserve more? Why can't I just be happy? And so I decided to open Golden Rule, and if I can't have a baby, I'm going to have a shop baby, and I'm going to do it right. I'm going to move onto Water Street and do it up. And so I don't know if you've heard of Ashley Mary. She's another great artist in town. She was helping me, and we decided to go get ruler tattoos for Golden Rule. And I got 3 inches. Yes. And this was like the week before we opened. Wow. And the 3 inches were meant to be like Ben, me, and Lillian. Like, we are complete, and I'm going to stop acting and living my life like we have an incomplete family, because we are complete.
How did you get the point from being your angriest to then deciding, okay, we're complete, and who am I to ask these questions? And now I'm just going to move forward with my life? Because I think there's people might be listening that right now they're angry, or right now they're asking those questions, and they like, how do they get from, man, I don't even know if I believe in this God, or I don't even I mean, there's people that don't believe in this God, the God that we talk about, or believe in, and that's fine. But they're just angry to, okay, I got to move forward in life.
It was a couple things. I think one, the anger for me wasn't sustainable. It was really painful for me and for the people around me. And I think I finally just got a little perspective. Like I said, why am I as lucky as I am? Why am I being greedy? Why do I have to have more? I don't have to have more.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that my acceptance in the tattoo was like me being like, I am so thrilled that I have lost these children and can't have, you know, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like a happiness. It was like an acceptance.
Yeah.
But the crazy part is that when I got that tattoo, I was already pregnant with my son, River.
No way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. So, and I didn't find out, you know, for another 10 days, 2 weeks. So it was right after I opened Golden Rule as my shop baby, like all my love and attention and everything, I'm shoving it into this poor shop.
Yeah.
And then I find out I'm pregnant, and I was like, you know, that's
crazy.
It's like a dream come true. But then of course it was scary because I had lost so many, didn't know if I was kind of like, well, this won't pan out, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But
we had a similar experience in that we thought, because we miscarried and we tried for a year after that okay, maybe it's not happening, and so we went down the path of potentially adopting, and so we filled out an application, all this stuff.
We looked at that
and I've
too.
actually heard these stories before from other people of like, as soon as, like you talk about the acceptance, it's not that all of a sudden you're happy, joyful, like praise God, I can't have kids. Nobody's doing that, but the acceptance of, okay, maybe this is not God's plan for our life, or how things are working out. So we accept it. We're gonna start doing something else, kind of go down a different road. And it was shortly after, and I don't know if it was when we fill out the application. There's some other things that we were praying through, that we fill out that application, turn it in, and Kaylee's pregnant with our second daughter, which is amazing.
Which is, when you are suffering with infertility, it's the most hopeful story, and it's also the most annoying.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I'll just turn it off. Fine, I just won't care. Like you can't
do it.
not care. You know, it's like the thing you want with every fiber of your being. How do you turn that off? How do you accept? So there's no
formula to that.
No.
Yeah. So this child, that happens. You're opening up the shop. You get pregnant, and this child makes it.
Yeah. Yeah, which, I mean, both of my children, now in hindsight, I feel like, what miracles? Why do I have either one of them? They both came at such, like, inopportune times, not when I was...
Yeah.
Yeah. Which just goes to show, like, you can make plans, but plans fall through, and what are my plans anyway? What do I know,
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. So you open up the shop, and talk about from birth of your second child and the Golden Rule, and to a little bit of where it is now. And then we'll shoot back to the beginning of your life, because I want to hear about the family you were raised in.
Yeah.
What it's like, you had artists' parents, but also you were a pastor's kid, all that. But so the shop from your second kid.
Sort of a beautiful side effect of getting pregnant with River and then having to take a bit of a step back from Golden Rule is that I think Golden Rule was becoming a little bit self-centric. It was very much about me, just by nature. It was everything I was pouring in. Pouring it in, and kind of like violently doing it. And it created space for other people. And so I feel like opening Golden Rule was almost like opening a lighthouse. And it's this house that sits on a little hill.
On the main street in Excelsior.
Yeah. And I think it speaks to people. It's like I'm speaking a certain language and certain people hear the frequency of it. And that's kind of an amazing thing in and of itself as a person who has never felt super understood.
Yeah.
To find people who are like, I get what you are doing and I want to be a part of it. And so suddenly I had space for other people because I needed to take a step back.
Yeah.
So these young women started coming in, and that's been the greatest gift. It's incredible.
And so from right now to the end of 2018, like over the last, 3 years, 5 years, and because how old is River?
So River will be 3 in February, and I think I signed my lease like almost 4 years ago.
Okay, so almost 4 years ago. What you're speaking to is a community of women started showing up in your life to help move this thing forward.
Yeah, like I want to be a part of this. Are you hiring? And at the beginning, of course, I was not hiring. This was going to be my thing.
Do you want to give some shout outs?
I really do. That is sort of my job in life, to be a cheerleader.
Yes.
So Monica.
Yes.
Monica was maybe like the third woman to come in and be like, are you hiring? And I was like, of course I'm hiring you.
Yes.
Yeah. So she has been like my right hand. And
also, side note about Monica, just because we're talking about her, is she every once in a while will text my wife and say, hey, I'm coming over to pick up Adley, our older daughter, and she'll do a full day with Adley, take her to Mall of America or take her to a movie or take her, and she's just that type of person.
Yeah.
We love you, Monica.
Love you, Monica.
And she'll be a guest on this podcast real soon.
Yeah. I mean, I have just been blessed to know that a person like her exists. I mean, I've never met a more angelic human. I mean, I feel like, are you possibly a saint? And I've known her a long time and in many contexts now. And yeah, she's incredible. And it's wonderful to see her work in the world. And she's very generous with her time and all of her resources. And I mean, there are too many Golden Girls to even name, but another.
That's what you call them, the Golden Girls?
Yes, isn't that cute and funny?
Genius.
Yeah, no, pretty young.
Amazing.
Then another one is Anna Elisabeth.
Yep.
Have you heard of her? When she is better, you have to have her on the show.
Do I know her?
She's a poet and an artist, and she had a heart and lung transplant at Stanford in August. You will know her. You've got to follow her.
Yeah, really.
She came to Golden Rule about a year ago, and we hired her on. And another, like, can a person have more than one right hand? Apparently, I have a few. She's incredible. She's like another soulmate. Just both of these people, just old souls, like 22, 23, depth beyond their years.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've got Anna Elisabeth, and then I think Sammy, and Sammy is a new addition, and Maddie Reimer, and just so many wonderful, wonderful women that I just can't say enough about. Yeah.
Amazing.
So much talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And Beth Kath. I'm just saying it because she was the first guest on this podcast.
Yeah. I had a meeting with her when I was 1 week away from having River.
Yep.
That was the first time I met her, and she was so full of exuberance and ideas and said, I want to take Golden Rule to the next level for you. I want to get you some good photography. And that really was a pivotal moment because until then I was kind of just doing it all myself on my iPhone and, Beth Kath photos.
Yeah,
that's a legitimate thing. Like
literally at every event that we're at, that she's there with her camera. This has happened. I can't tell you how many times. I could think of 3 right now, but it'll be an event that she's getting paid to do, and then she'll like pull me and Kaylee over. She'll be like, "Hey, you want to do a little mini family photo shoot right now? Just right now, like real quick. We'll just shoot quick." She takes a bunch of photos. And then she sends it to us later. It's like
you got your Christmas card picture then,
yeah, for real. Yeah. It's like we would have paid hundreds of dollars for a little mini family photo shoot to make it happen. She just does it. Yeah. She's generous.
Knowing her and Monica and all these women, they've really sort of upped the game, and they've taught me a lot.
Yeah, tell me about. Okay, so as Golden Rule's starting to take off the last 4 years, also, I mean, there's a faith side to your life, and we'll talk about maybe some younger years, but what has the last 4 years been like in regards to your relationship with the Lord, and seeing this shop grow, seeing your family grow, some of these dreams happen? I'm sure there's challenges too that you can talk about, but your relationship with the Lord throughout the last 4 years and seeing this community kind of happen.
I mean, I don't know why, but the word that's coming to mind is wizened. Like, I feel like it's seasoned and older. I remember in high school just being sort of ridiculous and writing, "I love Jesus" on the side of my shoes.
Yeah.
like, doodling.
That's what you did?
Yes. And being really outspoken. I know
Most people are like writing like
super
boyfriends' names like new last names.
Let's be honest. It used to say I love Travis.
There you go.
And I had to change it when we broke up to I love Jesus.
Shout out to Travis if
Travis,
you're
you're
listening. You missed out.
So, kind of this youthful, in love with Jesus kind of a faith to, I don't know, I feel like I talk about God more now. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think about God the Father.
Yep.
And this overarching love and this story of redemption. It's just changed for me how I communicate with God and how I view him. And he's bigger than how I view him. But just knowing my own trajectory, it's been interesting.
Yeah, it's like a depth of faith.
Yeah.
That's grown.
Maybe tested and tried and less like puppy love and more like a lifelong marriage.
Through thick and thin.
Yeah.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. And how long have you been married now to your
It'll
husband?
be 10 years this spring.
Amazing. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 7, so I'm looking at Tissel in the eyes actually right now. So I
nice work.
have a little moment, but no,
I
my wife
crane
and I,
my neck and also
my
look
wife
in the
and
eye.
I, but Tissel, we've known each other for how long? He doesn't have a microphone. 7 years. It's kind of like me and my wife.
It's a long-term relationship.
We have been to the state fair together every single year.
That's a commitment.
Me and Tissel. Mm-hmm. And I think most Thanksgivings too. Spend some time together. Love you, buddy. Like a side note.
Just witnessing a moment.
Awesome. No, I think it is true that faith that's not tested is faith that can't be trusted.
Yeah.
I almost said put that in your pipe and smoke it, but I shouldn't say that.
Maybe the wrong crowd for that
but
one.
your faith has now been tested, and now there's like, not that people would trust it, but it's a trust that you have in the Lord because he's brought you through it all, through those tests.
Yeah, and I think, I've changed the way I pray and changed exactly what it is that I trust in. I don't trust that my life is going to play out the way I want it to play out.
Totally.
I trust that God is bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that's just all it is at the end of the day, that I know so very little, and I'm okay with that.
Amazing. I think that's a lot of people's challenge in stepping into faith is because humanity would say, well, I'm not going to trust anything I don't understand, but to say I'm actually okay with the Bible says his ways are higher than our ways, his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We just won't understand the God of the universe. And I agree with you. My perspective is I'm actually okay not fully understanding the God who created the universe, because if I did, or if I needed to, like, I'm barely show up on time for work. Like I'm, what I'm saying? Like for me to say this thought of like, well, I can't explain God. I can't.
Well, how pompous.
Yeah, totally.
To try to say, I know.
Yeah.
But we don't know anything.
I'm pretending I know what the word pompous means, but I think
arrogant. How arrogant?
Arrogant. How arrogant.
Arrogant.
No, it's true. If you're listening, no, I'm kidding. It's like the terrible episode for, anyways. This is a good episode. Okay, tell me about your upbringing, because I want to hear about your faith journey, not just where you're at now, but how you were raised. You already explained your dad was, you said something humanist, secular humanist.
Well, that's what his parents were, so that's how he was raised, and so I think it was sort of his mother's nightmare that all of her children became Christians.
Really?
Isn't that funny?
How many children?
She had 4.
4 children. They're all Christians.
At least 3, and like multiple pastors.
Really?
Or married pastors.
So uncles or aunts that married pastors.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I was 19, my dad became a pastor, and previously, my parents had been singing for children, and we would travel the country. And
when you say singing for children, like what type of environments?
So they were
creating?
called the Flyers, and it was just the 2 of them. And have you heard of the Teddy Bear Band?
No.
No. Okay. Well, that was their same era, but they would.
It's like 80s thing that happened.
So like 1983 to 1998, they did it full time. That was their only occupation.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And they would do state fairs, elementary schools, libraries. They weren't like birthday party people. They were like above that.
Sure.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
What's the comedian? He says, my dad was a magician, or my dad was a clown, and I was always embarrassed of it because he would do birthday parties or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had a friend he had a friend that his dad was a magician. It's like his dad's better than mine.
Oh no, like a step up.
Yeah, it's like the magician does county fairs and.
Oh no.
Anyways, your parents were legit singing for children, not at birthday parties, but in libraries.
Yes, in libraries.
And
Let's be
fairs.
clear, and auditoriums.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's awesome. Okay, so then they became pastors.
Yeah, and I think that they always kind of were. You know, they were bringing families together to enjoy each other and music and to make them laugh.
Who were you at 19 as that transition
So
happened?
I was at Bethel College and
Studying what?
music.
Nice.
Yep.
Which, we got to talk about that because you were a worship leader, songwriter. I mean, you talked about the band that you were in your breaking, but and I'm getting ahead of it. But there's a song you wrote that's really encapsulates your whole life, and just who you are. So, anyways, you studied music. I don't want to derail what you were just about to say.
Oh, who knows what I was going to say? I'm always derailing myself. I don't know.
So at 19, you're at Bethel studying music.
Yep, and my dad became a pastor. Yes. And that felt like a very natural move for all of us. And they actually had to physically move houses, and so my childhood home was no longer there. And there was a lot that went along with losing that safe space for me. I dropped out of school to make a record.
Yep.
And I did that with a band, and I was dating the worship leader at our church, and he was really wonderful. And I remember...
Is that Trevor?
No, that was this was Justin, very good man.
Great.
Still single, ladies.
Shout out to Justin.
Yeah. So he was incredible. We were writing music together, and we were playing out and made this album. And I remember at our church, it was a Vineyard church, we both kind of went up for this prayer saying, give me whatever you've got, God. And I remember feeling like, oh, do I really want to do this? I think I do. Like, whatever you have in store for me, even if it hurts, give it to me.
Yeah.
And I prayed that prayer, and I honestly feel like maybe this is not theologically sound, but it felt like then I was tested, and like a lot happened. A series of events, some people making bad choices around me that affected me, and then some of my own bad choices sort of landed me in a different relationship, and then getting married to my daughter's father and so many other things. And so I think that's when my faith became, maybe it didn't become real then, but it was really being tested. Like, why are you such a rule follower? That's hollow. You know, I mean, when I stopped following the rules, who was I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great and theologically sound. I think it is, because when you pray for things like patience, God usually doesn't just put it in your heart, but He gives you something to wait for. Yeah. And that's how it's developed.
Tricky.
So, God, give me patience. And it's like you're really praying, God,
test my patience.
Yeah, test it. Yeah. And so prayers like that, it's funny because there's people that I know that are like, there's prayers that they are afraid to pray, or even topics of conversation they're afraid to talk about because they know that principle and how God works is like, if I start thinking about this or talking about it or praying it, God's going to send me into what I'm afraid of, you know?
Yeah.
But that, I think that's part of the point of life is God created you where we're weak, He's made strong, all these things to throw you into environments where you feel a little bit in over your head or a little bit like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. And it's not God's, like, it's not His, there's nothing evil about that, but it's because it causes us to remain dependent on Him. And He gets the glory in everything that we do anyways. So anyways, I think it's great. You studying music, trying to do a record, between then and then you were doing the silversmith stuff. What was the transition of, like, I want to do music to maybe I've got some skill that would help me become a shop you call it a shopkeep?
That's like my
shopkeep, general store owner.
Lovingly, jokingly referring to myself. I mean, that really was such a funny, organic progression. That's not something I ever could have envisioned for myself.
I feel the same way. Again, I'm interrupting. I'm sorry, we joked about it before we started that we're just going to interrupt each other. But I studied music, and to be a worship pastor when I was 18, I had this moment of rededication, like to the Lord. Like, this is what I believe. It's not just the faith of my parents. I'm also a pastor's kid. But this is, I'm doing this. And because I saw my parents as pastors said, this is how I was raised. This is what I know. And I believe this is what I was created to do. So I was going to go into ministry, but using my gifts, being music. So a worship leader. And throughout that, over the last 8 years, God has shifted my passions from music to people, like just people in general. And literally, like, I don't really care to sing and to play or to be on a platform and lead worship. Like, I just don't. That used to be like what I cared about.
Same.
Not at a shallow level, like not shallow, but to make a difference in people's lives and to lead. Like, it was a good thing.
And it felt natural and like what your gifting was and what your calling was.
And now I just don't care about it, which I care about worship, but I love being in the front row, yelling my brains out during worship and singing.
And one's not better than the other. It's just a strange shift internally. Like, when did that happen? And
I didn't even cause it. Like, it just, God did that. And now I'm a campus pastor within this church, amazing church. And I didn't do it. But did you have this similar thing where passion shifted?
Yeah. And I think I just realized that I had less to say and that maybe my songs were less relevant to me, and I just don't do a good job. Like, I can't just get up and sing a song I don't believe. That is just not the talent I possess. I have never been a performer. I have been a truth teller.
Wow.
And again, not a judgment, just how I'm created. I just can't sing it if I don't believe it. And I think it's just like my medium changed, and as my faith has changed and become almost more childlike and more simplified, I feel like it's been distilled down. Are you familiar with Les Mis?
I've seen the movie.
Okay.
Quick story is I went to go see this movie, and I did not know that the whole thing was singing. And I actually appreciate it. Like, sat through it. It was awesome. But my brother-in-law, and I don't know if he'll listen to this. Maybe my wife will send it to him. But we went as a family, like with my in-laws and Kaylee, my wife's brother.
Did he like walk out? I'm nervous for this.
We did not know it was all singing. And when he found out, in the beginning, they're obviously the whole thing's singing. And he goes, "Is this whole thing singing?" And like 5 minutes in. And he said, "I'm going to have to walk out." And he left. And I think he went to Taco Bell or something. But
I feel like I need to sit down with him and have a heart-to-heart.
He would look you straight in the face and say, "It's the worst movie of all time." He'd probably say that, but anyways.
Well, I'm just gonna put him in a chair, strap him down, tape his eyelids open, and make him watch it.
He would hate that. So.
That's okay.
But
by
he's
the
a
end,
good person, and I love him. He's a good person.
Well, my point in bringing that up is there's a line: "To love another person is to see the face of God." And that's what rings the most true to me now. I just think we are all here to serve one another, to love one another, to be gifts to each other. We are given to each other.
Yep.
And I think that's sort of my faith in a nutshell.
Do you feel like that now plays into the shop that you own? Like, do you view the golden rule as this is like more like Christian lingo? I don't mean it as that, but ministry. Do you feel like this is a form of ministry for you? Even though it's so successful, everybody knows the golden rule. Like, everybody knows your shop, whether they've been there or not, it's out there, and in a city, in the Twin Cities full of art and it's an amazing place if you're in any level of like art or design or music or theater or anything like that. And for you to be kind of on the forefront, like in front of everybody, yet you're saying it's true ministry for you. What does that mean? In me saying, put it in your own words. What is it? Yeah.
It's a place where I have free reign to say anything I want to say.
Yeah.
And I do think that it is a platform that I need to be a good steward of, and I am careful.
Yep.
But very honest and authentic. So I try to acknowledge things, on my social media, and I wouldn't say it's extremely overt.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're looking for it, you see it. And I mean, I encapsulate tiny bits of 1930s hymnals in jewelry. So there are tiny little clues here and there that I hope open the door for people to have a conversation with me, but I would never want to shove anything down anyone's throat.
Yeah.
So
I think what it's probably making more of a difference than you would even realize, like the clues, just who you are, and also being light in this world, like you're a person of light. And so it just by living your life, I think people notice there's something different. And I think that's partly why maybe your shop is in the season that it's in, where it's out there. And I feel like there's great momentum just with what you're doing and building and community. And that's awesome. But yeah, I think you're making more of a difference than you think you are. And what's attractive about it is probably that you're true to yourself. What you said about singing songs, I can't sing a song that I don't believe, is you probably can't also build a shop in a way, or
for better or
filter,
worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse, filter.
There are things that I could make a lot of money on that I'm just not going to sell because
Yeah.
it doesn't ring true to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't mean to put you in a corner. You even saying that, is there something specifically that you won't sell? Like at your, and you don't have to say it now. Like,
I wouldn't give you specifics. That would be mean, but,
yeah, not like a brand. I don't mean that.
there are plenty. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's legit.
Yeah.
There's things that you won't put in your shop because it's not who you are.
Yeah. And, yep, I could get myself into trouble.
You don't have to.
Nothing
you don't have to.
Yeah.
This is a really hard hitting show. So,
yeah, I'm very particular. I mean, I need to believe in the art and the artist, the message, everything around it. It just has to ring true as a whole.
yeah. And I think it's cool. Not that you're exclusive, but you're careful to what to put in your shop. And I think it creates almost a level of demand. Like people, like there's people, even creators that I know, there's people that I know that you've sold things in your shop that they've created, which is amazing. But it creates almost this, I want my art to be.
It's too bad. It makes me feel bad because I hate saying no.
Yeah,
and it's usually not even based on talent. Like sometimes it's like, this is beautiful. It's just not for here. It's just so specific.
Interesting. That's so interesting. How do you say no? And how do you decide what's in your shop? Because again, I started this conversation by saying it practically, somebody walks in today, what's in the golden rule? And then you said I was 14 years old. And so you went back, which is fine. But going back to that, how do you decide? How do you decide what lands in your shop?
I am maybe the most decisive person I've ever met.
Really?
Yeah.
You have an opinion.
I have an opinion. I was born with an opinion. So it's not hard to decide. What's hard is the delivery. I just hate disappointing people because I've been in that same position with my jewelry, bringing these things I've made and these creations and saying, do you want to sell these at your shop? And not understanding why they wouldn't want to, not understanding their vision.
Souls.
Yes, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. So yeah, it's usually not about the talent level. It's just
what is the
very narrow
process? They
aesthetic.
just walk into the store and say, hey, here's my art?
Whenever they do that, I say, I don't review anything in person. Because I cannot look at their faces as I say no.
Yeah.
It's just awkward. So I always say, just, submit via email. I'd love to see images and I'd love to read your artist statement because I want to understand the person behind it and what they're trying to do. And if they're just dashing something off, that's less interesting to me.
Man, that's brilliant. I think even outside of the world of art, in hiring people or choosing people to have in your life or on your team, to say, I would love to read your artist statement. I would love to read your human statement. Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
And part of that is like a test because I'm a writer and an editor.
Yeah.
So I feel very like, can you communicate clearly and articulately, and are you compelling?
Yeah. Okay, so you are an artist. You're a businesswoman. You are a writer, an editor, a musician. All this, which is amazing. What are you not good at?
I don't know how to water ski.
Okay. Okay. You get to answer the questions however you want. It's amazing. That's obviously not what I'm looking for, but thank you. No. Okay, so you can't water ski. Great. But in your business,
my house is a mess. It's
okay.
full of everything that I've been working on all the time.
Yeah.
It's like art projects and whatever, just explosions everywhere. Is that what you're looking for?
That's closer.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter what I'm looking for. You can say water ski. It's great.
I have plenty of faults.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think it's just cool and I don't say it like for me because I'm interested, although I think there's similarities in your personality. You're an ENFP, and even you saying I'm a really decisive person, but I really care about the delivery because I'm not trying to destroy lives. I feel the same way. I can talk strong, like in a room, without that person, and I know exactly the decision I want to make, all that. But it just eats me alive. If they're in front of you, it eats me alive.
It's that empathy.
100%. Like, and I don't actually. Maybe it is empathy. I don't know, but the way that I lead or talk is very decisive. But when they're in front of me, it's like I want to say the hardest thing, but I want them to leave and go, man, that was the best meeting I've ever had in my whole life. Like, that's what I want, you know?
Yeah.
So but it's not always realistic, you know? So anyways, I feel similar to you. And so maybe it is selfish to say, what are the areas that you feel like you're not good at? But it helps people that listen too, is like you're building something super successful and that's awesome. And it's like, you're living the dream, but what's kind of behind the scenes of, I'm working on this is still in development where, you know, here's my challenge in leadership, in business.
I mean, I'm working on balance, and I think that balance is an illusion. I don't think that it exists. And so I guess I'm striving toward a goal that I'm never going to reach, but my family doesn't see enough of me. I work 80-hour weeks, not necessarily in the shop, but all the different parts of the shop. And because the shop is Golden Rule, and then I have a small event space workshop, then the jewelry aspect, and then I've got the installation at Bang Bang, and then I open Pip and Pal, the kids shop with Gray Home and Lifestyle. It's just a lot of directions. So I'm working on dialing it back a little bit and maybe paying myself this year. 2019, I'd like to pay myself.
You don't pay yourself?
I haven't paid myself since River was born. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
So I don't know how successful you can be if you're not paying yourself.
No, but you could pay yourself.
Well, you know, you choose what to put the money into,
totally,
and I put it into growth and into the women
amazing.
that are working for me, and yeah.
It's amazing. Who taught you business?
You know, it's been learning it on the fly. I have a good math brain, and I'm pretty practical.
Yeah.
But a lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error. And my dad, you know, had businesses growing up. He had the Flyers and taught guitar lessons, and my grandma had her own business. So some of it is just sort of inherent understanding. But I mean, again, how good can I be at business if I'm not getting paid, right?
Yeah. No, I mean.
Maybe I need a mentor.
No, I think, yeah. You probably have mentors. You're probably doing a great job. So I didn't mean to just say like, man, she's making so much money.
You want me to walk away from this meeting thinking this was the best meeting?
So much money. No. Okay, so back to your family needs more of you. One, why do you say that? Because there's a lot of people that go, yeah, if you're not home at 5, and there's somebody that I follow, and he talks about all the time. He goes, people talk about quantity of time, but they don't want to talk about quality of time. And so the parents that are out there that are like, well, I'm at home by 5:30 and I'm with my kids and I get to put them to bed, and you shouldn't be working those hours, and you should be mom at home, and you shouldn't be doing all that. They'll guilt trip people that are working the hours that you would work, and maybe you feel some of that. But those are the same parents that are on their phone while their kids like, Dad.
Yeah, I think that's maybe my issue,
Mom.
is that I'm not always present. I try to be available. You know, people will call, so my cell phone is the shop phone, and people call at all hours, and they email at all hours.
Yep.
And I still feel like I'm such a baby business that I need to like be responsive and be on it immediately. So it's like I'm hanging out with my kids, and I'm like, oh, hold on, I got to answer this question, or somebody ordered something. And so it's that sort of always being slightly divided.
So you're not, great. You're not talking about quantity. You're talking about upping the level of quality. I felt the same way last night. As we were recording it last night, I got home, and in my transition in life right now, I'm spending a good chunk less time with my family, my wife and kids, and my wife's a hero. And so last night I said, I'm coming home and I'm plugging my phone in and it's on Do Not Disturb. And I'm just refusing to apologize for that.
Yeah.
Because my 3-year-old daughter needs me from 6:30 to 8 o'clock until she goes to bed. Like if that's my time, then I gotta give it to her.
Just be on.
And it's killing me more and more and more because this happens in my life where she's like, Dad.
Yeah.
And I'm on my phone. And she'll say sometimes, Dad, look at me.
Yes.
Look at me. And I want to shatter my phone.
I know.
You know, and just think, what am I building out in this planet that's more important than building this human that God's entrusted to me?
Yep.
And so I'm walking through the same thing. And even not just with children, I mean, with my wife, you know, trying to build a healthy marriage. And, you know, even as we're recording this, and this is not my podcast, but I'm being transparent in that I've not done a great job in dating my wife, you know, and spending time, quality time and quantity one-on-one with my wife.
It's easy to kind of do the autopilot thing. Like,
Totally.
We're good, right? We're good. Like,
totally. Like, yeah, you ask those like questions, like a little audit in marriage. Like, I think things are going good, but it's like so I'm being more strategic with that of like, not that romance or marriage should be strategic.
Well, you're being more intentional.
If you don't do that.
Yeah.
So going on a weekly date, like I'm trying to make that happen, you know.
That's good.
And plugging my phone in so that I can't pull it so far from the wall, and it's on Do Not Disturb, you know, when I'm at home because,
That's smart.
And then if there's an emergency, somebody can get a hold of me because they can blow by the Do Not Disturb. But anyways, thank you for this therapy session. It's been great. I'm just kidding. No, it's awesome. I just as we wrap up this conversation and this episode, one, I want to say thanks. We had never met before today, but I think you're amazing. What you're building is amazing. The
Thank
people
you.
that have come into your community and that work for you are some of the best people. Both Sammy Huerta and Monica and Beth, I either officiated their weddings or was in their weddings. So obviously I think they're some of the best people in the world.
I do too.
And that they would want to attach their lives to what you're building just says so much about who you are and who your family is and just how you're leading your life. It's really amazing. I've never been to the Golden Rule because I don't know if you sell guys clothing, but we're going to talk about that separately as a new business venture because I want to be a part of that, which would be awesome. Not really. You can say no.
Well,
Just don't look me in the eye. Just don't
me.
look me in the eyes when you say no.
I'll ask you to submit your ideas via email.
Ace is behind you.
Yes, and they've got men's things.
Yeah, so men's things. I'm going to come. My wife's been there, but we'll come.
You would find something for yourself. I mean,
yeah, it's lifestyle.
Yeah, there's
Lifestyle.
Good design. You're not going to find clothes for yourself at Golden Rule, but you'll find other things.
Well, depending on my style.
I mean, yeah,
Don't
maybe
judge me.
I don't know you that well. It's only been a couple hours.
No, I know. No, it's awesome. Thank you so much for taking time. Here's a couple questions. What's your favorite book of all time? And separately, while you're thinking about it, is somebody that's following in your footsteps, and you can pick from whatever angle you want. Maybe somebody that has lost a child, or somebody that's starting a business, or somebody that's working too much, not giving their kids what they need, somebody that's, you know, divorced and remarried. One piece of advice that you'd give them, and you've given so many pieces, but if there was one that you're just going to throw out at the end. So favorite book and one piece of advice.
So my favorite book is sort of a historical favorite. It's sort of a childlike favorite. I think I read it when I was 14, and it's called The Robe.
Yep.
Have you read that?
Nope. I said yes like I had read
You're like, yep, mine too.
Yeah. Yes, it's my favorite book of all time.
It was, you kind of put yourself in the shoes of Jesus and then his followers in the days after his death. And I wonder now if I read it as an adult, if I would just roll my eyes, but it was impactful for me at the time. Yeah.
Do you know who it's by? We'll just look it up.
Let's look it up.
It'll be in the show notes.
It's an old book, like maybe from the 30s or something.
Yeah. Like,
I want to say anything
30
that's not
years
right.
after Jesus' death?
Yes. It's called the Bible.
Yeah.
That's my
It's the Bible.
And then advice, honestly, it probably applies to everyone. Don't take yourself too seriously. And life is short, so whatever that means to you, use your time wisely. Live it up.
Use your time wisely. Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, we'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. We've got new episodes releasing every single week. We'd also love to hear your questions or comments. You can comment below. You can also find us on Instagram at Exception Podcast. And I want to give a quick shout out to our producer, Tissel. My name's Kirk Graham, and we'll see you back next week.